Let's come on down to our mat with a block for a core and mobility short flow. And this will have some Pilates inspired movements, a lot of floor work. I think almost all floor work. So let's come on down to a reclined position. We'll lie on back. You can bend into the legs, let the feet separate about shoulder to hip distance, maybe even towards the edges of the mat, and then allow the knees to come in towards each other. Feel a release in the front body and the hips. If it feels good to open the shoulders, turn your palms up and allow the elbows to come to about shoulder height if the backs of the arms are in contact with the floor. And if they're not, you can slide the elbows down a little bit lower to find that connection. You want to feel relaxed here and not tensed. And just take a few minutes or a few moments to connect with your breath, to connect with the body in this space. The breath is very important, so we want to be mindful of it throughout. Be mindful of what the body needs and the limitations today with each movement, taking modifications or taking this practice and the poses and exercises to a further place if that's what suits you. So just breathe in through the nose and out of the nose for a couple more rounds here. And maintain that steady rhythm of your breath. I want you to bring the palms down to the mat, pressing in about at the edges of your mats here. Shoulders walking down away from the ears, back is flat. And separate the knees if you have them drawn together. We'll do what's called an abdominal press. We want to really squeeze into our belly here, tightening, drawing the navel to spine and pressing the low back to the floor. And then as you release the breath out, still keep the back nice and flat, but feel the belly rise up. Take a full inhale. With that next exhale, pull the navel deeply into the spine. Press the low back into the floor. So think about really gluing that low back down. We'll take about 5 to 7 more of these. And just connecting with those abdominals, the muscles there in the midsection. See if you can pull a little tighter each time. Draw it in a little more deeply and press that low back more firmly into your mat. Last 2. Maintain that steady rhythm of breath and maintain that nice flat back, your neutral spine. Lift the feet up off of the mat, point strongly through the toes, and just stack your knees right over your hips. Keep the palms pressing right into the earth. Shoulders still down away from the ears. Now with your next inhale, I want you to extend the right toes out and down, keeping that bent leg. And as you exhale, pull the right knee back in to meet the left. Switch to the left side. Inhale, tap. Exhale, pull in. Keeping the back nice and flat. If you need a little support for the low back, you can slide the hands underneath the hips. So the backs of the hands would be resting right against the glutes, and just keep the contact with the floor for the entire spine. We'll go for one more on each side, slow and steady, tapping down right side, tapping down left side. Now bring your hands, fingers spread wide right to the kneecaps and start to draw some hip circles here. They can be wide, they can be narrow. One more in that direction, and then just reverse it in the opposite direction. All right, we'll settle back in, reverse tabletop. Now you have the option to do what you did on that last set, alternating right toes tap down and then the left toes tap down. Or feel free to extend both feet. All the toes tap down, we come back in. So if you just did the right side, go ahead and do the left. Or if you're doing both, again, slow and controlled, breathing deeply into the belly. Inhale to lower, exhale to drop in and rise. Keeping that low back nice and flat, belly nice and tight. So we'll go 2 more. You're alternating right side and then left side. All right, now we'll do a little bit with the hips again, but the hands are gonna stay on the mat. So if they were underneath your hips, go ahead and slide them out. Now let the knees pull in using your lower abs and separate towards your shoulders. Big toes are gonna touch here. Keep a point in the toes. Now separate your feet. Let the knees and the inner thighs come together. Feel an internal rotation in your hips. Separate the knees, bring them towards the shoulders. Use the belly muscles to draw the knees closer to the shoulders. Toes touch. And then the toes separate and the knees touch, and just cycle through that. Control it with the breath. Nice and steady. About 3 more. Last one here. And then just hug those knees in towards the chest. You can wrap your arms right around the shins and take a little sway side to side if that feels good. Keeping the head, neck, and shoulders down on the mat. Go ahead and come back to your reverse tabletop. Flex through your feet this time. So really pressing through the heels. And we'll do that with a lot of heel drive, flexing into the toes as we extend the right leg out and then bring it back to center. Shins are parallel to the floor, back is flat. So with your inhale, extend the right leg out, flex the foot, hover the leg off the floor, let the exhale bring it back in. And then left side's gonna extend out. Exhale brings you back in, and continue in that fashion, slow and steady. Again, maybe supporting yourself with the hands underneath the hips. If you feel any separation in that low back, I urge you, very crucial that you slide those hands underneath, squeeze into the belly a little more. Do that abdominal press and press your low back to the floor. Want to go for 2 more here, extending out, drawing in. Last one, extending out, drawing in. Now let's take a little windshield wiper. So take your hands, walk them a little bit off of your yoga mat. Shoulders are still down, and a gentle sway side to side. Making sure not to let the legs hit the floor, so just stopping before they do, a couple times each way. And then coming back to center, and we'll prepare for those leg extensions again. Maybe this time you extend both legs out. So releasing either right leg or both. Back is flat, draw back in. Left leg or both. Strong and steady, let the breath take you there. Move with it, be guided with it. Last 2, so if you're doing one side, go right, and then go left. And then let's find those windshield wipers one more time. Let the legs fall to one side, keep the shoulders down, come back through center. Drop them to the other side, through center, one more time each way. And now we'll plant the left foot down, extend the right leg high. Walk your left fingers to the back of that left heel and just make sure you can barely just touch at the back of that heel. That's how close you want to walk your heel in towards your glutes and your hips. Keep the back nice and flat. Now go ahead and point through the right toes and start to extend the right toes out in front of you. Sweep the right leg out to the side, keeping the hips grounded. Find that circle to bring it all the way back up to start. And again, slow and controlled. Left side staying nice and still, so the ankle, knee, and hip are all in alignment. Just finding these circles here. You can make them big, you can make them small. One more time in that direction, lowering out in front, sweeping to the side, rising up. Now let's just reverse that direction. So go ahead and take it out to the side. Again, the hips stay still, nice and grounded, move with the breath. Point through the toes, last few here. Last 2. Last 1. And now as you rise that right leg up, go ahead and put a flex in the foot, take a figure 4 position here. Keep that flex in the right foot, let this right hip open up. Now come really high to the ball of your left foot, to the toes, lifting the heel off the mat. Take a breath in, and with the breath out, use the strength of your abs to draw the knees in towards the chest, lifting that left foot off the mat. Tap the toes down, inhale, keep the figure four, exhale, pull in. Slow and steady down and up. Breathe in, breathe out. Last two. Last one. Now, hold that figure four, extend the left leg up high to the sky. Flexing in through both of your feet, gently start to lower. Keep that figure four connection. Find your edge. Make sure the back is flat, and then rise back up. Let the inhale take you there, lowering, and the exhale pull you back up, rising. And feel free to slide the hands underneath the hips. We just have one more. Lifting up. Go ahead and lower the left foot down. Let the right foot come to meet it. And we'll send the left leg up high to the sky this time. Aligning yourself on the right side, maybe using those right fingers as a guide. We'll point through the left toes and start to release the left leg down out in front of us. Keeping the right side nice and still. Sweep out to the side, rise up in that circle. And again. So slow and controlled here. Slow is best. Last one in that direction. And then just reverse that direction for me. So take it out nice and slow, coming up. You can make these circles smaller or bigger, whatever suits you. Just working through what the body needs today, whatever you are dealing with. Sometimes we have little aches, little pains. Last one here. Go ahead and flex the foot, find your figure four, open up the hip. Sometimes we have things we just need to work around, and that's okay. Keep the flex in the left foot, come high to the ball of the right, inhale. As you exhale, knees pull into the chest, lift the right foot off the mat. Inhale, lower. Exhale, use the strength of the belly muscles, rise up. You know that back is to stay flat, so keep pulling the belly in, not just as you crunch in towards you, but as you release away from you. Last few here. Last one. And we'll keep that right foot off of the mat. Go ahead and extend the right leg high to the sky. Flex in both of the feet. Let the inhale lower the legs out in front. Go as far as you feel comfortable. Exhale rises you up. Inhale, lower. Exhale, rise. And if this doesn't work with that straight leg, know that you can just tap the right toes down and then rise back up. So there's always a way we can still take a little off. Last one here, if needed, and continue to keep the body moving. Great job, you guys. Separate the feet. Edges of the mat, take a gentle windshield wiper side to side. Let them fall, one side then the other. And then one more time each way. Just start to notice that opening in the body, the mobility in the hips. We'll roll to the right side. And you can rest your head here on the mat. So if you even want to use your block and just rest your temple there on the block, you can support the head in the hands, maybe stretching the arm out so it's in line, wrist, elbow in line with your shoulder, and stacking into your hips, okay? So we want to keep the hips stacked here and not twist and roll that top hip open. Find a bend in the legs. So as you bring the knees out in front of you, they're going to come towards the edge of your mat. They're not quite up in line with your hips, a little bit below. And your ankles end up in alignment with your hips and your shoulders. So make sure the ankles aren't back behind you or out in front of you. If we have that straight line, ankles, hips, shoulders, boom, okay? Left fingers can just rest right down here on the mat. This feels nice and cozy, but we got a little work to do. So keep the knees touching here, but lift the left foot off of the right. Now the knees are going to separate and the toes are going to come back to touch, but we're not twisting and peeling that spine open, okay? So no rotation there. Bring the knee down. Feet are separated. Yes, bring the knee up and let the ankles touch, and just slow and steady. Breathe with it, getting that internal and external rotation in the hip. A few more here. Last one. Now stay with the feet together, the knee lifted. Now we're just going to keep the feet touching this time, but lower the knees to stack. And then lift just the knee. Keep the feet together. And again, try not to peel the spine open here. So we're not twisting in the thoracic spine. We just want to feel that outer glute, that glute medius. So if you don't come up too high, that's okay. Slow and controlled, just a few more. Find that last one. And then release everything down. Go ahead and roll over to your other side. I'm going to turn this way just so I can continue to face the camera. Support your left temple, however it feels good to you, with a block or without. Stretch your left arm out so that you do have the wrist, elbow, and shoulder in good alignment. Stack your hips. And then find the bend in the legs, okay? Ankles, hips, shoulders, all in good alignment. Let's go ahead and lift the right foot off of the left. And now let's lift the knees apart and bring the feet back together. Slow and steady. Just little taps. Internal rotation and external rotation. Last one, and go ahead and pause there with the feet together and the knees separated. You're going to keep the feet together. Go ahead and lower the right knee to meet the left, and then with your next exhale, lift up. Be mindful not to twist, keeping your belly nice and tight, so just always bracing into your core to stabilize you. And just feel that right outer glute. So notice I'm not coming up super high. My knee's not coming in line with my hip. I'm working with the mobility that I have. I'm not going to force my body out of alignment and use other muscle groups just to get back further. Take that break. Nice job. So now we're going to rise all the way up here and just come into a tabletop pose. Stack your shoulders over wrists, nice straight arms, and let the knees fall right underneath your hips. Take your right foot, step it to the back of your mat. Keep the toes down. And I want you to really dial the front of your right hip down, okay? So if the right hip starts to open up a little bit, pull it down, belly button facing straight down towards the mat, and you should really be able to engage your right glute. If you cannot, press the front of that right hip down a little bit more and press into the right toes a little more. Feel that big squeeze in your right glute. Stay here and hold for 3, for 2, and for 1. Now find a 90-degree bend. Lead with your knee. Fire hydrant, open up. Do not bend your arms. Keep the 90-degree bend as you come back behind you. Tap your right knee over across the outside of your left calf. And then come back up. Open up the hip into that fire hydrant. Keep the core engaged. Sweeping down, crossing up and over, tapping the knee to the outside of the calf. And 3 more just like that. Tap. One more. Tap. Go into a quick child's pose. Untuck your toes, press into the tops of feet unless you need your toes tucked. Go ahead and send the hips back to the heels and lower the forehead down. Now if your hips do not touch your heels, this is where that block can come into play, on the smallest setting or the biggest, but find that connection. So use that block to support you and press your hips back into the block or to your heels. If your forehead is not close to the mat, you can always use a block there. If the shoulders are tight, separate the arms. They don't need to walk out in front of you. And just take a couple more breaths here. And begin to start to lift the hips, remove any block that you might have. We'll set up in that tabletop again, nice tight core, flat back. Make sure there's no sink in the low back and send the left toes to the back of the mat. Dial that front of the right hip down. Press in firmly through the ball of that left foot and really squeeze your glute. Now your glute and your hip flexor, they work as antagonists. So one is engaged, the other one is releasing. Right now we're engaging the glute so we can release the hip flexor. Take one more breath. And then find your 90-degree bend, flexing the foot, leading with the knee, open up the hip to the outside, fire hydrant. Keep the bend, cross up and over behind, tap the knee down outside of the right calf. And again, sweep out and up. Core is nice and tight, protecting that low back. One more. Okay, as we prepare for child's pose, I want you to keep the toes untucked unless you need to tuck them, but we're gonna keep the knees together in this one. Sometimes child's pose can be wide, sometimes they can be together, both options. This one we're gonna go narrow because we'll play with a little bit of hip pressing and rising up, adding the twist if you wish. Now, sending your hips back onto your heels for child's pose. Go ahead and lower down, but keep bent arms here. So find like a 90-degree bend and just lower your forehead to the mat. And stay here for just about another 2 to 3 breaths. Forehead on the mat, elbows kind of in that cactus beside you. And now gently pressing yourself up. We'll bring the hands back behind the head, hips are back on our heels. Lifting, opening up the chest just a little bit here. And now start to close off and round in the chest. Lower your upper body down. See if you can tap the elbows to the floor. Rising up, letting the breath out, sending the hips up and forward, maybe adding a twist to the right side. And you can always leave that twist out if you need to. Come back to center, send the hips down, let the elbows come down, touch the floor, rise up, hips come forward, maybe twist to your left side. And you're twisting from the waist when you do these. Hips go back, lower down, rise up, hips come forward, twist to the right if you do it. So the hips stay facing right out in front of you. And we just have 3 more. Rising up, twisting if you need it. Glutes are tight there at the top. Last 2, lowering down. Elbows touch, rising up, opening the heart to twist. Last 1. And releasing down. For our last and final exercise, I want you to come to a comfortable seat and extend your legs all the way out in front of you. Now, if you need to sit on a block to support the spine, you can do that here. Just place the block right underneath your tushy. We won't be doing a forward fold, but still, even if we're trying to sit upright, if we have tightness back there, sit on that block to help you, okay? All this pose is going to work into a little internal rotation again in the hip, okay? Separating the feet, so you have a little bit of space, okay? They're not quite at the edges of the mat, but they're close. Sit up really tall here. And then just allow the feet, the big toes, to come in towards each other, that internal rotation. And then let them come back out. Let them come in. Feel that right there on the inside of your hips. Let them rise up. 3 more just like that. Last 2. Last 1. And done. Find a cross-legged position. Continue to sit on your block if you are on it. And we just take a moment here to stretch into the neck and a little bit into the shoulders, okay? Make a fist with your hands here behind your back. Sit up really tall. See if you can bring that fist package over to that right hip, as close as you can. And then draw that right elbow back behind you. And keep that clasp of your fist with the palms, the heels of the hands pressing together. Now keeping the neck nice and long here, take a breath in, and as you breathe out, drop your right ear over to your right shoulder. Feel the stretch on the left side. Hold it there, keep drawing that right elbow back. Take 2 more breaths. Last one. Gently rising up. We'll shift that fist over towards that left hip as close as you are comfortable with. Draw the left elbow back behind you now. Take a breath in, neck is long. As you breathe out, drop the left ear gently to your left shoulder. Feel that stretch all along the right side of your neck. Take 2 more full rounds of breath here. Gently releasing. Sitting on the block if you aren't already. This is our last and final stretch for the hamstrings and to close out our practice today. Flex your feet, take a deep, deep bend in your legs. I want everybody to wrap their arms underneath, try to keep as flat of a back as you can and bring that chest to connect on your thighs. The chest is gonna stay connected on your thighs. Don't let it separate. And then see if you can straighten your legs a little bit. Find a little more of a hamstring stretch, find the shoulders pulling back, but keep the chest on the thighs. And you go to where you feel comfortable. And we hold there for 5 breaths. So once you find that position, feel the stretch in the back of the legs, feel the length in the back of the neck, the heart shining forward. So keep spreading the collarbones, keep the chest on the thighs. Last full breath in here. And let it go. Gently start to release the hands right to the mat, walk them back, and you are done. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys feel amazing. Have a great day.